2026 Stanford admissions are out. What Stanford's official data really tells us, with the 2026 admissions cycle officially coming to an end, Stanford has released a new round of admissions data for our team. This was also an exciting application season. So far, our students have received 11 offers of admission from Stanford, as we have reviewed application files and analyzed successful admissions cases. One thing has become increasingly clear: Stanford's admissions priorities continue to evolve. Today, let's take a closer look at Stanford's latest common data set and what it reveals about the type of students Stanford is looking for. Because when the acceptance rate is only 3.8%, understanding the numbers matters. Let's start with the most obvious statistic. According to Stanford's latest data, a total of 60,646 students applied for undergraduate admission this year. Only 2,302 students were admitted. That puts Stanford's overall acceptance rate at just 3.8%. Looking at gender, approximately 31,500 applicants were male and 28,900 were female. Because the female applicant pool was slightly smaller, the admission rate for female applicants was marginally higher. Female applicants were admitted at roughly 4.0%, compared to approximately 3.7% for male applicants. Among admitted students, about 80% ultimately chose to enroll at Stanford. This extraordinarily high yield rate reflects Stanford's position as one of the most sought-after universities in the world. The waitlist numbers are also interesting. A total of 573 students chose to remain on Stanford's waitlist. Of those students, 57 were eventually offered admission. That translates to a waitlist acceptance rate of nearly 10%, compared to some highly selective universities that admit almost no students from the waitlist. Stanford still leaves the door slightly open. But the competition remains intense. Transfer admissions are even more competitive. This year, Stanford's transfer acceptance rate was approximately 2.3%, significantly lower than its first-year admission rate. In other words, transferring into Stanford is actually harder than getting in directly from high school. So what does Stanford really want? First, the academic bar is extraordinarily high. Among recently admitted students, 97% ranked in the top 10% of their high school class. The median SAT score was 1550, including a median math score of 790 and an evidence-based reading and writing score of 760. Starting with this admission cycle, Stanford has also reinstated standardized testing requirements, making SAT and X scores an important part of the application. Once again, but among thousands of applicants who already meet these academic standards, what determines who gets admitted? The first factor is something Stanford admissions officers often describe as intellectual vitality. In simple terms, are you genuinely curious? Do you enjoy exploring questions deeply? Do you pursue knowledge because you love learning, not just because you are trying to build a resume? Stanford consistently looks for students who demonstrate authentic intellectual energy. The second factor is that depth matters far more than breadth. When you study successful Stanford applicants, a common pattern emerges. The strongest candidates usually have one clear and compelling narrative, one central passion, one meaningful direction, not 10 unrelated activities. This is what I often describe as a student's hero's journey, a coherent story that connects their interests, achievements, and future ambitions. The third factor, and one that many students overlook, is academic and career alignment. Admissions officers want to see consistency. They want your courses, extracurricular activities, competitions, research experiences, and future goals to form a logical and authentic trajectory. The strongest applications tell a story that makes sense. Everything fits together. And when it does, admissions officers can clearly envision how that student will thrive at Stanford. We have put together a detailed Stanford admissions guide covering application strategy, successful student profiles, and key admissions insights. Comment Stanford below, and our team will send it to you.